showing her nails, but she's a firearms fanatic as well.
They'll still be around. So driveway started as not really a joke, right? But all things that are primary and secondary start in some place. So we're talking about, and Chuck Pressburg was just ranting, and he's like, I run out to the end of the driveway, and I look left, look right, and see if the war's happening. The war's not happening, so I guess I'll just go make dank memes. And that was basically, running out to the end of the driveway, right? And that's exactly how he said it. He didn't say nothing about I'm running out and there's no cops to shoot. There's no Army guys to shoot. I ran out. There's no fight going on, so I guess I'm going back inside. And at the time, we were doing a bunch of stuff with 11.5 guns. And because we got a customer that just bought a bunch of 11.5 guns. So we're shooting 11.5 guns a lot, and reliability and, the stuff that we did for, the important stuff, like going through and figuring out how many rounds you can actually shoot through this gun before it breaks. We fired 150,000 rounds in 4 days.
Holy shit.
Which sounds cool, right? It sounds really cool. But when you're firing one round every 3 seconds for 4 days,
that's a long day.
It's a long day. So there was 5 of us. We all fired 30,000 rounds in 4 days. And
jeez.
So, and we were doing that at the time. So we're talking about, we're seeing where these guns are breaking down. And I'm like, hey, if we're gonna do a fight, zombie apocalypse, whatever it is, and I was watching that's the time that show Falling Skies was on.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that show? And it was just, any of these things, if I have a gun that I don't know when I'm going to get another gun, if I need a gun, what gun would I want to have if I just can't go to the arms room or go to the gun store and buy a new gun, right? And at the time, with the stuff that we're doing with 11.5s, so I jokingly was like, because Chuck Pressburg has the Roland Special, which is attributed to him, which was really built by somebody else, but he made it famous. So the Roland. So I was like, hey, this should be the driveway special. And man, people got mad. They got butthurt when I started posting about driveway special. I've been posting about it for like 4 months. And then people were just like, this driveway special is so stupid. Blah, 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 blah. Why would I put a magnified optic on 11.5 gun? And so then we just kept with it. We just started pouring fuel on it. But
yep, and I watched it.
and people were getting mad. It's the stupidest gun ever, and stupid hashtag, and stupid primary and secondary with all their stupid specials, and just all that sort of stuff. And we're just like, well, everybody hates James Yeager, right?
I like the guy. I met him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, but you know what James Yeager's doing? James Yeager fills every class that he advertises.
Bingo.
Every one of them. He's not having a finale get canceled because nobody showed up to it. James Yeager could be like, hey, we're going to do cartwheels and shoot guns and wear clown outfits. And people be like, where do I sign up?
Yep.
Wow. So regardless of what he's teaching, that's not going into whatever he's teaching. That's just the business side. The dude is filling every seat that he can advertise.
Yes.
Right. So, I was applying a little of that, and for whatever reason, people buy all this special operations equipment stuff, this SOE, and I don't know if you've ever looked at their Facebook pages or anything.
Oops, I may have some of their stuff.
Yeah, or gotten emails from them, because, any other place.
That guy has the best business model ever.
Right. Yeah. If I emailed someplace, if I called that one when my truck was there tonight, if I would have called up there and I'd have been like, hey, I was just wondering when my truck was going to get done. I got some things going on tonight, and you said it'd be done, and I'm just checking on it. And the guy was like, fuck you, and hung up on me. That ain't going to work. No. That ain't going to work nowhere. But at SOE, right? And so I was like, let's play with this. Let's play with this negative energy for the driveway special and see what it does. And people were still talking about it. Like I follow Driveway Special on Instagram, and there's people still. I haven't even posted about it in a long time. Nothing real. Maybe a hashtag every now and again. But
We'll have to do that again.
yeah, and everybody's, the Driveway Special is a thing. We turned it into a thing, and it wasn't a thing, but it's a thing now. And whether they like it or not, it's still a thing. So yeah, Driveway's cool. The black one shoots a little bit better than the green one. For some reason, this thing, I don't know, it holds about 2 minutes, which is perfectly acceptable, right? But with Quantified Performance, once you started posting 1 minute group pictures and then you post one that's 2 minutes, you're like, man, that shit's just garbage, and it's just, so I mean, I don't shoot it as much as I need to, but basically, this thing effectively is probably about a 20,000 round gun. It's going to run 20,000 rounds, and maybe with a spring, somewhere in there. So, and daytime, nighttime, because I got the Mark 6 on it with the illumination in it. Just got your old Earn sights on it. But so daytime, nighttime gun that's going to last me forever, right? One of the things that I did was make sure you put law folder on it, because nobody thinks about whatever reason you want to be running around the countryside with guns and worry about shooting people, whether it's zombie apocalypse, whatever one that you want to go with. You're not necessarily going to be running around in your full kit with your helmet on, looking like you're an American soldier. It may not work that way, right? So you may have to be doing, trench coat thing or some sort of cover garment to hide your gun, right? Fighting Afghani dudes, I learned that a lot of people won't shoot you unless you have a gun in your hand. So you're not showing the gun in your hand in those conditions might be a slight advantage to you. So with the law folder, this thing gets really small. So I could actually have this basically when I'm standing up, if it's up under my arm like that, basically it's about my belt line, right? With that 11.5. So that's one of the reasons for the law folder on it. Law's good people, but you may have to get that gun very small someday. Put it into a backpack. This will fit in a JanSport bag that you get from the high school.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the clear ones like Colorado has. They have clear backpacks. It's like, so that might not be the way, but it'll fit in a backpack. It'll fit a lot of things. Got a variable power optic on it, so I'll be able to see things. All this sort of stuff. This one does something cool though, and that's folded.
Ooh.
So that's coming from law pretty soon. It was supposed to release like months ago, but it hasn't yet.
Ooh.
And that thing, I don't know if that one's combat capable yet, but that'll be a thing, because it's still like, that's the reason I haven't released it yet. It's still like prototype type thing. But and that's kind of the story on Driveway. Different guns will shoot better. Like I would really love if this was a 1 minute gun. It's not, but it'd be really cool if it did. But there's always that price for that, shooting really good or shooting really long, and that's that hard balance in it. Because I could have a guy cut me a barrel, 11.5 barrel that would work with it, put it together, shoots for a minute, but then it turns into a 10,000 round gun or a 5,000 round gun. So there's that price that goes with it.
Well, working at Knights, and I'm a little bit of a Knights fanboy, but I don't own any Knights because I'm a poor. You guys, they did make a gun that shoots very far, and I would say is a very good gun, which is one of my favorites. It's the M110.
Yeah, M110, solid gun, and people hate it, and all that sort of stuff. Like Army sniper guys hate it. It's big, it's heavy, it's 2002 basically technology. It's 2019, but 110 is solid. It does the Army requirement, which is they measure stuff and they call it average mean radius. Everybody else does these extreme spread groups. but they do this radius on it because they're doing all this various ammo, and that just works better for them. So it has to have a .60 AMR, which is basically works out to kind of about a 1.2 minute, but it'll do that for 5,000 rounds with minimal maintenance to it. Suppressed or unsuppressed, it has to do that. So while it's not a bolt gun and it's not a snooper sniper rifle and all that sort of stuff, it does pretty good work for a really long time, even if you're a retard and you're abusing it. And
I know a couple of my friends that were in the service would qualify under that category.
yeah, and yeah, so but like I say, it's 2007 tech. Everybody's like, oh, I hate the suppressor that's on it. We're like, we have new stuff.
I think that suppressor is cool as hell.
it really to go at that time to get a suppressor that does what that suppressor does, it was top of the line. It was like super tech for that time.
And I think that's why I personally, I've never shot one. I've seen so many pictures of it. I think that's why I actually fell in love with it so much, because of how it looked, the old school tech. And now, of course, you got, Knights has the SR25s and everything. And people were making, it's funny though, everybody hates the M110, but there's several Instagram pages that are taking the SR25 and converting them into M110 clones.
Yeah. Yeah, and the cloner side of it, because guys have been, I mean, I don't know the real numbers, right? But here's just some food for thought. So the M14 was the actual service rifle for the United States Army from like 1959 or 60 is when it officially became a service rifle, somewhere in there, until 66. So it was only the full service rifle for like 6 years. By the time it got fielded, it was only like 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. And then they switched to the M16. So the Marines didn't switch to the M16 until the A1. I don't think they went to it until 67. But by 69, all the Marines standard issue was on M16s, right? So yes, M14s have stayed in service because they stayed in the inventory because they're fully automatic capable. That's why they stayed in the inventory, because they couldn't convert it to non. That's why we kept them all. So yes, there's been M14s in use in very small numbers since 59, right? But we've been in a war since 2001, and the 110 has been the sniper support gun since 2007. So that's 11 years of about the same density that the M14 has been over the years. So I'm willing to bet that there's been as many or more people killed with M110s than M14s. That's just my guess. And so, I mean, the
M14 at a time.
Yeah. I mean, the M110's one of those iconic guns. It did a lot of work, and whether you loved it or hated it, it did a lot of work. And I've seen just as much M110 hate as I have for the M14. And there's just as many people that love it as love the M14. But it's a solid gun. It does a lot of work. But if I was to give the Army a 110, if if 110 never existed and they asked for that same product now, mm-hmm. I've got much better options out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're just weird things with the 110. And when people are cloning it, I'm like, all right, cool, man. They're like, well, I want one that actually says 110. I'm like, I got you. I got one. I can sell you one that says 110 on it. And everybody's like, yeah, sell me that. And I'm like, all right, it's $23,000. And they're like, what? And I'm like,
hence the reason why I don't have one.
Yeah, well, to get one that says 110 on it, we're selling the entire kit. And it comes with everything that the Army gets. I'm talking from cleaning rods to pouches to Pelican cases to soft case to suppressor, mount, optic. You get everything. All you have to do is feed that thing 7.62, and you could have no gun at all, no gun stuff, no anything. All you would need is like something to put pouches on, and you walk in with something to hold pouches and 7.62, and you're ready to do work.
You forgot $23,000.
That's what you're getting. That's $23,000 is you're getting all this stuff. You're getting a Pelican case that you'll never use that costs $180. You'll look at it and you'll be like, I don't have a use for this, but it's part of that $23,000 kit. And so everybody's like, oh, I want one that says 110. It's the only way to get it.
That's the only
I
way.
guess I'll get one that says SR25. Yep. Because that's about $4,000. So it's much easier to chew. But one of the things for 7.62 guns on the Knights guns is they're kind of like a Harley that hold retail or is it resale value. Because I'm watching Knights guns. Somebody paid $4,200 for it or $4,500 for it 5 years ago, and it's a low round count gun. Every gun is a low round count. I only shot it a handful of times. And they're out there, they're burning it down, doing mag dumps out of it. But I only shot it one day. Shot 40,000 rounds out of it in that one day. But but guys are selling them for if it's especially if it's a gun that's a little bit interesting, guys are selling them for $4,000. So you get 5 or 6 years worth of use out of them. And guys that puts a $4,000 price tag on it, and dude's like, sold.
Yeah.
All right, man. So they hold their retail value or the resale value, and I mean they're solid guns. They're solid for a long time. Once it goes bad, it's going to cost you because you got to go back to Knights to buy stuff for it. But I mean, it's not for the value, and that's what when people are like, because we get it all the time. People are like, man, your guns are so expensive. And I'm like, there's more to it. And I did the math one time using Brownells, and I had to log out because military Brownells gives you a 10% discount, so that was throwing off my numbers. But if you just go straight on to Brownells with no discount on it, and because Danny Defense guns get 10,000, 12,000 rounds out of a barrel. So to get to 20,000 rounds, if you get a standard, $1,500, $1,700 gun, put a barrel in it and put 2 bolts in it, you're almost the same amount of money as my Knights gun. And depending on how much you paid for it in the beginning, you might be over what you're paying for that Knights gun by the time you get to 20,000 rounds. People's like, well, I'll never fire 20,000 rounds. Be like, okay, cool. I'm not selling that gun to you. I'm selling you a 20,000 round gun. You're not ever going to fire 20,000 rounds. Value in it decreases. But at SHOT Show, if I'm not feeling like talking to anybody, when they walk up and they're like, hey, what's this gun right here? I'll be like, oh, that's the SR15 LPR. Retail on it starts about 27, and they just turn around and walk away. just have retail in that first sentence, the retail price for it, and people don't want to hang out. Everybody else are like, hey, I got this cool things. I got ambidextrous controls. I got this really cool trigger. It does this and this and this, and you're going to get this much out of it. And people will stay in the talk until you get to retail. So if it's lunchtime or whatever, and it's like, yeah, man, yeah, that thing's $2,700 to start off. They're just like, walk away.
Bye. You got any questions you want to go through? Because we have a set amount of questions that we ask at the end.
Okay.
That any guest that we've had on, we've always asked at the end.
What are your thoughts on TCCC for civilians?
On teaching what?
TCCC, the TC3.
Is that the
Tactical Combat Casualty Care?
Yeah. The hard part with that is, and this is why I don't envy those guys that are teaching that sort of stuff, is you have to get somebody that's going to commit to the full level of training. That's always the thing with medical, because you have that. Well, the Army had, we called it Combat Lifesaver, and it was literally like throw a tourniquet on it, start an IV, that sort of stuff, like a step above stopping bleeding, in addition to like CPR, right? Because the standard stuff is like CPR, they're not breathing, Heimlich maneuver, here's your CPR. So stopping bleed was like on top of that. Going beyond that basic stuff, which people want to go deep into it, you know, and they want to see these things work, and they want to go in it. Going beyond that is, we call it high dangerosity, because if a firearms instructor teaches somebody how to shoot and then they go shoot up a school, there's going to be some sort of liability there.
Right.
Somebody's going to try and sue you. Odds are that people are going to see somebody hurt, crash, you know, something like that, see somebody hurt and attempt to apply medical care much more often than that. So if you don't have stiff grading criteria, don't give them a certificate. Absolutely get training, get as much training as you can. But it is just from the teaching side of it, there's that spot. So if you can get people to commit to it and stay to it and get that knowledge, then by all means. And I give support to those guys like Dark Star and all that stuff that's providing all that sort of stuff. If you're looking for that sort of training, find a big name. I mean, it's going to cost you more, and you're going to have to travel. Find a big name, because otherwise you're going to end up as some dude that's telling you to put a tampon in it and not telling you how to do things. And, you know, you're just going to get, you know, you're going to get really bad information that you're going to try and apply. Even if you're a perfect student, if you get bad information and you apply that bad information, you start doing it, there's liability in there. And if it doesn't work and you actually end up doing something that really hurts that guy or that girl, then you can't take it back. You own it. You're going to own it forever, as far as everything goes. So if you're not ready for commitment, just get a tourniquet, figure out how to put the tourniquet on, and be done with it. Last deployment, I'll tell you what, tourniquets are the way. The whole, everything else.
I was gonna say, mine's sitting over there for work. I carry one in my pocket every day.
Yep. And I carried when I was deployed. I carried, because I was a platoon sergeant, so I was responsible. It was me and the medic that were responsible for doing that sort of stuff. I carried 5 or 6, and my medic carried 15. That came from a good friend of mine. His name was Tim Sinkowski. Tim was physically fit enough to be in the Army, right? But Tim, when he had all of his kit on, was 300 pounds.
Wow.
With all of his gear. Tim was a big dude. Tim hit an IED, lost both legs below the knee, almost lost his right arm, and his left arm was pretty messed up too. He was such a big dude that it took like 12 tourniquets to keep him alive. You had to put 2 tourniquets, hook 2 tourniquets together to get around his legs, and then to get them tight enough, they had to double up the tourniquets. So just his legs took 8 tourniquets. So, and that's in a world of really skinny people. The Afghanis, they're all skinny. There's very few fat ones that are out, and physically fit Army, Marine Corps, Navy type people, right? So when you get on the civilian side, there's big people everywhere. And so you might run into somebody that's like that. So I carried, and we knew another unit that got hit really bad, and they all had 1 tourniquet on them. Everybody had a tourniquet, and they all needed 2. And luckily the medic had a whole bag of tourniquets, and there was enough tourniquets to get everybody going on. So
Wow.
Anything that's, you think about anything that's going to have 1 tourniquet is probably going to need 2. Right? Unless you're in a really weird type construction type thing. But if you're thinking about, you know, car accidents, if somebody's needing a tourniquet in that car accident, the other person that was in that car is likely to need that tourniquet. So now I'm up to 2 tourniquets right there in the car kit. You know what I mean? So that the tourniquets add up quick. Luckily, they're not expensive.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And they last. So, you know, prep them, and then, try to keep them, you don't have to keep them super clean, but try to keep them semi-clean. And once you've used it, like actually put it on and actually tightened it, just make it a training tourniquet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It just put it into the training one. It's always good to have trainers. And then, but mark it somehow, turn it into a trainer once you've actually cranked it down on something. Because you don't want to be in that position where it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you have one or two, and one of them you're like, oh, we use, oh man, it broke something, or it stretched, or it whatever happened, when you were playing with it. But yeah, get to training, get as much training as you can on all those things.
Would you say
Including,
that as well with the medical, the same with firearms training? Get as much training as you can.
Yep, and from different sources, and find ways to practice it. That's one of the things with medical is where you can practice it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, but there's a volunteer fire department just about everywhere.
Hmm. I have one
And
3 doors up from my house, actually.
yeah, so I mean, you can get with those guys, and you can be like, hey, can I stop by and put a tourniquet on the dummy every once in a while? And I'll be like, okay, they're gonna look at you sideways, and all right, stop by or whatever, and or how about the volunteer fire department? Those sort of things to practice it, because, well, I mean, it's just like with everything else. If you invest a lot of money into something and then you never do it again, it's wasted.
Yeah.
No matter how much you like it. I went to a tracking school one time, and it was great. It was 2 weeks. Army invested like $3,000 into it without travel, and it was awesome. And I haven't tracked shit for 5 years. Not a proficient tracker anymore. It's even though I dig it, I love tracking. It's awesome. I'm not out there tracking. So it was my just investment that just went away. And same thing with medical. Same thing with firearms. If you're going to invest that money, at least practice enough to be in it. And I'm just as guilty as everybody else, but some sort of physical fitness should be, that's great that you can shoot good. It's awesome. And I haven't, the only thing that I've done working out for 2 years now is move a bunch of workout equipment, and stacked a bunch of weights, and then restacked a bunch of weights. And I ran some 5Ks, right? But so I'm not like, hey, I go to the gym all the time, go to the gym. I'm not saying it that way. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But you need to have a moderate level of instant physical ability that you can do on demand. And so being able to go run a 5K and survive that 5K is like bare minimum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's 5K isn't hard. It's kind of miserable when you haven't done it, but the physical fitness standards that I'm getting ready to put myself back up to, I use the military athlete standards, and they're not bad. They're not crazy. It's just kind of a baseline. I think it's deadlift and squat 1.5 times your body weight, and be able to bench press near your body weight, like 1x on your body weight. So it's not terrible numbers. So some sort of physical fitness, the ability to put on a tourniquet, and the ability to hit a man-sized target out to 300 yards. That's really a baseline, kind of there.
So now, since we're kind of on you were talking about tourniquets and kit and what your medic carried, tell us a little bit of like, what would be an ideal like basic car kit that you would carry, or like a go bag, everyday carry kit kind of stuff.
What I would focus on is stopping the bleed, covering the bleed, and then fixing airways. I mean, a lot of the things that you're going to see, that's what's going to get, well, they call it the golden hour. And most things, if you can stop the bleeding, most things, if they get proper medical attention within an hour, they're going to survive. But if they don't have air and you can't keep the blood in them, then that sort of thing. So they got the little J tubes that, be able to basically get down in the airway, tourniquets, and being able to cover that. I mean, if you think about a car crash, one of the most traumatic things about a car crash is blood everywhere. So that's something that when you're seeing that, you're not going to be able to ever put down. It's not something you can just go in and select that and delete it. So if you can get the bleeding stopped, then and they're breathing, the ABCs we used to talk about,
Yeah.
then that you're better off that way. A lot of people don't think about some sort of abdominal dressing because there's a different technique for doing the abdominal. I wouldn't worry about doing needle decompressions and all that sort of weird shit unless you know how to do that. But basically, that sort of bandage to control, because we're soft and squishy, so if something opens up my abdominal cavity and my intestines are coming out, something that's going to be able to hold those in place and keep those fairly sterile during that time. And then, basically being able to do that. Gloves for you is actually one of the things that people forget about a lot, because they get the gloves and they buy their kit and they got the gloves in there, and then they smash the gloves together and the gloves melt together. So they go to put on their gloves and, the gloves don't work. We've all pulled out those rubber gloves that they just
snap.